Now, Poker Central live with Maria Ho. You must be excited. What can we expect? I assume with your contact base in the industry, you'll be joined by some heavyweights, a plethora of poker elite.
It's really kind of just a hangout with my friends in poker, outside of poker. Obviously, there's going to be poker instruction and strategy and commentary and all that, but I think I'm kind of looking to do something different. Twitch, there's a lot of Twitch streams out there, and a lot of them are very heavy on the poker, and I think I just want to make it a more of an inside glimpse into, the poker community, the poker world. So I'm really hoping to give all the viewers a little behind the scenes action on that. I mean, obviously, it's just been a long time coming for the poker world to have a 24/7 network. I think, we see it with golf and Major League Baseball. Poker is still niche, but the only way to get it out into the mainstream is to provide a lot of poker programming for them. So I definitely think that Poker Central is setting out to change that, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it.
That should be great. Can't wait for that. What do you feel about Twitch? I mean, this site is hot for poker right now. I've been watching the WSOP, Elke, Somerville, those heavyweights going at it. This new network, this will be another thing I'm sure to pump up poker, right?
Yeah, I mean, Twitch has become such an amazing platform for poker. It's funny how it's taken so long for us to have a presence on there, but I'm really glad that we do now because it's an interactive way to get people into the game. There's a viewership for poker, but sometimes it's not as interesting if you don't kind of get the, inside scoop on what the player's thinking and all that stuff. And with Twitch, you can do that in real time. It's very interactive, so it keeps everybody more engaged.
Now, where are you located? Are you in Vegas?
So I'm based out of LA. That's where I was raised. I've lived there since I was, 4 years old. But I mean, for the last few years, because post Black Friday, I had to relocate somewhere, and so Vancouver's kind of been my secondary home base for when I want to play on PokerStars and other, non-US legal sites outside of the States. But I travel a ton on the circuit, so I'm honestly just not ever in one place for very long.
Well, I'll tell you what, Canada would certainly adopt you. Playing out of Vancouver, what a beautiful city that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous. That's where I am right now, actually, and that's where I will be playing WCOOP from and, streaming on my show from Vancouver during this time to launch my show on Poker Central's Twitch channel.
Well, on the mention of WCOOP, what do you think about the 51K buy-in? What does that say about the state of the game?
I think it just says, that this game is changing in some ways. I think before there was a very important need to appeal to the masses with, the buy-ins and with the structures and to cater to a lot of recreational players. But obviously now that poker is kind of at a bit of a lull in terms of getting new players, I think now it's about generating more excitement for, the player base we already have. So I think the 51K is just a perfect example of playing for high stakes, watching the best in the world play for these high stakes. So I think it's a really good representation of, a different avenue in which we're getting people excited about the game right now.
Yeah, I think it says that poker is certainly alive and well. I want to talk about the ownership group at Poker Central because it really is a who's who of big-time poker. You've got Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu, Antonio Esfandiari. I mean, you talk about three names in poker, there they are. You've joined the company now. I mean, it looks like this is a serious outfit and here to stay.
Like you said, it's very much three of the biggest figureheads in poker in the last 10, 15 years. And so it's really great to see that there is so much traction behind this movement because I think it's something the whole poker community can get behind. We obviously want a 24/7 poker network to succeed because that's only going to help our cause of getting more players into this game. So I feel very, very honored to be joining in the ranks of, those names for sure.
Twice you've led women in cashes at the WSOP, I believe that is correct. 2014, the latest, where you cashed 8 times. I mean, that's pretty incredible considering the field sizes. I know at this year's series, women were relatively scarce. I think around 4 or 5% of the main event field. You're in the know. What has to happen to get more women playing these big events? And is that one of the aims of your new show?
I get asked this question a lot, and I think it's such an important question to ask, and I really wish that there was kind of an easy solution for something like this. But I think what it really comes down to, I say this all the time, it's making women feel more comfortable to play this game. But I don't want to say that just in the sense of being nice to them when they're at the tables or making them feel welcome. It goes beyond that. It's about making this game easily accessible for women in terms of learning the strategy behind the game. Because what it comes down to is nobody ever wants to play a game on a competitive level that they don't feel like they are good at or they don't feel like they can be good at. But poker is very much a game where, yes, there is some, innate natural ability involved, but that's on a very, very small scale. The big factor in poker is really taking the time to learn, and I feel like there isn't a lot of female poker instructors. For example, you look at all the big training sites like Run It Once, Card Runners, all of those sites that have a bunch of videos. There's not a lot of women doing strategy videos, and so I think it's a little bit easier for a woman to kind of hear from another woman, how they approach this game. It just makes it a little more relatable. So there's so many little things that I think the community as a whole can do to bring more women into this game. But of course, it definitely starts with the second a woman sits down at a poker table. Make sure that she doesn't feel bad about being new to this game and not really knowing the protocol of when to bet, when to check. I've seen a lot of professionals sometimes be unprofessional towards those that are new, but remember we all were new at one point, so it's just important to treat these players with respect and to make sure that they're having a good time, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I want to ask you about that too, because you've been around the block. You certainly know how to handle yourself at the poker table. And let's face it, there are yahoos in every line of work, and I'm sure you've run into a few at the poker table. You're a very attractive woman, and you're a very talented player. When you see a yahoo making comments that are maybe disrespectful, how have you learned to handle these guys? And are they easy marks for you when it comes to getting some chips?
I feel like at this point, playing for as long as I have, I've definitely seen it all, and I've really just always taken the approach of, just brush it off and kind of ignore them. Of course, there's a few instances that I can remember where I will definitely, if they're out of line, I will 100% stand up for myself. But most of the time, I take it in stride. I laugh it off because I think that's the only way you can really go about it. And I think that ultimately you are sitting down at a poker table and it's kind of no holds barred and there's all kinds of conversation going on. And sometimes I think they forget there is a lady at the table. And sometimes I enjoy kind of being the fly on the wall in that situation. But obviously at times it does get it does get a little bit annoying. But yeah, for the most part, I think I just handle it, with a smile, with a chuckle. And as far as, if they're easy marks for me getting chips, yeah, absolutely. I think that that's the biggest reason I've been so successful is honestly, I'm not the best poker player in the world, and I don't have a big enough ego to even think that, but I definitely know that I take advantage of my image as perceived by other people. So, if someone's going to think that I don't know what I'm doing or think that I'm not capable of playing a certain way because I'm a female, then that's definitely something I capitalize on every single day. And I think that's the reason why I've been as successful as I have been.
You mentioned earlier poker instruction. Now, I know you're involved with that. You've written several articles. You've broadcast on the game as well. You even authored a chapter in the book, Winning Women of Poker, Secret Strategies Revealed. You feel all that extra stuff has helped improve your game? And do you think that more players should be doing that? In fact, I think a lot of players neglect that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's tremendously helped me with my game. I think, especially going to the point of doing HPT broadcasts for the last 2 seasons where I'm literally commentating out loud and thinking through my thought process, watching other people play hands. It's really helped me revamp some of my thoughts about the game, because it's one thing to kind of play out a hand and think things in your mind, and things also become so rote. There's so many parts and aspects of my poker game that's just very second nature to me, quite frankly, because of how long I've been playing. But it really makes you kind of stop and take a good look at the strategies you've employed and, different ways to play a certain hand, because obviously when I'm watching a hand play out and I'm commentating on it, it might not be the way that I would play it, but it's always interesting to see other people's approach to the same hand and to kind of take some of those differences and kind of incorporate them into your own game and in the way that you want to play the hand next time you encounter a similar situation. So it's helped so much, and I feel really grateful for all of the opportunities that I've had to share my knowledge of the game with other people. And as especially where women are concerned, I love to do private one-on-one coaching, especially with women, and I think that it's really helped me also feel more of a purpose in terms of, not just playing the game, but also giving something back and trying to get more women in the game.
Are you taking clients now? If so, how do the women reach you?
I try to fit as much in from time to time, but if they go to my website, mariaho.com, and they can find contact info there to get in touch about any kind of coaching session.
Listen, I've got to ask you, I'm curious, what's your biggest poker highlight? You've had many. Is it a deep run somewhere? Is it some kind of coverage you got on ESPN, or is it one particular score?
I think that probably my biggest accomplishment, or something that I feel really proud of, probably has to be my second place finish in the 5K at the World Series. Obviously, I didn't win a bracelet then, but I obviously it was a great score. It was for over 540,000. But it was the field that I had to beat to get there. It was a very, very tough field. There were so many great players left, and it kind of made me feel at that point that I could stand on my own 2 feet against some of the toughest players in the world. And I think I played a really great game. And I think there's also something in that disappointment and in the defeat of not actually winning a bracelet and getting so close. There's something that's about that moment that's just driven me to play better, to hopefully accomplish that goal of winning a bracelet one day. So it's a good reminder of what else I have left to accomplish.
A couple more questions, Maria, before we let you go. I'm curious about this as well. Do you get recognized more, say, at the grocery store for the Amazing Race or for poker?
I would definitely say in day-to-day life, I get recognized more for the Amazing Race. It's kind of funny because actually when Tiffany and I are together, especially in traveling type settings like on airplanes and airports, we get recognized a ton still from Amazing Race. But in a casino setting, obviously, I'm recognized way more for poker.
I was going to ask you about Tiffany, Michelle. I assume you guys are still friends, because that's got to be a tense experience going, all over the world, and it's a competition too, right? I mean, is there any comparisons to tournament poker?
There are some comparisons. Obviously, there is that high level of competitiveness that you have to have that really drives how well you do. And also there's that kind of nervous, anxious anticipation that you get before a big tournament. Before every single leg of the race, I just remember feeling so overwhelmed and so anxious at the thought of not knowing what could happen next, at the thought of anything could happen next. But to be honest, everybody I've ever spoken to about the race, that's been on the race, professional athletes, they all say there's literally nothing like being on the race. Even, like I said, people who get crazy adrenaline rushes every day for a living still think that Amazing Race is one of the most tense and exciting experiences they've ever had.
Just triggered the thought of Big Brother and Vanessa Russo. Any thoughts on her and what she's done in that game? They're down to 3 now.
Yeah, I haven't really followed too closely, but I definitely have watched a few episodes here and there, and it's obvious that she has taken a very strategic route in this game, and so no doubt we would attribute that to her experience in poker. And so from everything I've seen, she's obviously playing a great game where Big Brother is concerned. So it's amazing that she's in the top 3, and we'll have to see if she ends up winning, but I wouldn't be surprised, because those are the kinds of minds that I think make for good competitors in these kinds of shows.
Her new show is Poker Central Live with Maria Ho on the world's only 24/7 poker network, Poker Central. Maria, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It was fun.